Hello, I'm your host Jim McClean. Welcome back to another episode of the BANTERFLIX movie review show. Let's see what movies we'll be talking about tonight. We'll be reviewing Edgar Wright's latest adaptation of The Running Man, which is out in cinemas now. Our pick of the streams is The Fantastic Four: First Steps on Disney+. And we'll wrap up with our DVD of the week, The Roses, which will be available later this month. So that's what we've lined up for you this week. Thanks very much to Robert J. Simpson for stepping into the seat last week. Joining me here in the studio in Belfast is the lovely Adam Neeson. And even lovelier, Hamish Calvert.
Hi, Jim.
Guys, the colder weather is here. Winter is approaching. I know that's kind of verging into kind of Game of Thrones reference. But just before we start getting into some movie news, have you taken the plunge yet? Have you allowed yourselves to watch any Christmas movies yet, or are you holding off? Adam?
I'm not a big Christmas man, so unless it's Christmas Eve and I'm watching the Muppets Christmas Carol, absolutely not.
Okay, so we've got our Scrooge. Hamish, what about you? Are you giving in yet? You know, the nights are darker, it's colder. We need something to warm us up. Have you given in to kind of maybe any of the? Netflix has an abundance of those Christmas movies now.
I haven't watched any, but I do have my ticket booked for Carol at the QFT, my yearly tradition. Kate Blanchett in her fur coat. Has to be done.
Okay, well, you are clearly much more restrained than I am. I have already went down kind of the Hallmark holiday special, but that's enough of me talking about Christmas. It's too early for that kind of thing. Because, of course, more importantly, very soon we will have our annual tradition of the Christmas lights being turned on by a top star. But we've all that to look forward to. And on that note, let's move on to some movie news.
Took you long enough.
So that's a look at the trailer for The Devil Wears Prada 2. We had a glut of trailers this week we could have chose to talk about. We, of course, had the Super Mario Galaxy movie. We had Moana, the live action. The less said about that, the better. But loads of trailers. But when we came in the studio, one person flung the door open and said, there's only one movie I want to talk about, and that is The Devil Wears Prada 2. Hamish, you're very excited about this, so tell our viewers why they should be looking forward to this film next year.
Well, yes, so The Devil Wears Prada is one of my all-time favourites. It's in my top 4 in my Letterboxd account, and it's one of the best films of all time. Meryl Streep's best performance, I'm going to put it out there. And when they announced the news for the sequel, I was actually very skeptical. I wasn't sure if they should go back there. It's a great film. I don't think these legacy sequels always work 20 years later. I don't really need to see what's happening, but apparently...
But you do?
Yes, because apparently all I needed to hear was the click-clack of Miranda Priestley's heels set to Madonna's Vogue, and I'm sold. The big 4 back, Stanley Tucci, Emily Blunt, Anne Hathaway, Meryl Streep, and the teaser trailer is all I need to see. I don't need to see any follow-up trailers. I don't want to see any more of the plot, but I'm sold. I think they've got the vibe back from what they had in the original, and with all the cast returning, I think that hopefully means the script is good. Same director's back, so I've high hopes for this. Counting down the days to the 1st of May.
So yeah, I love the first film. I have a real soft spot for it. You know, you've mentioned some of the cast members there. Meryl Streep, of course, can do no wrong. Stanley Tucci is in there. I love Anne Hathaway. Emily Blunt as well. Before, really, she was, you know, the leading lady that we know now. Very much a different role for her. So, yeah, I think the other thing you said, most importantly in there, the script. The script has to be there. And I guess we've mentioned with these legacy sequels, they can sometimes be a bit lazy. You know, we had the Spinal Tap 2 sequel of late, which was okay, it was fine. Now, Adam, when we mentioned The Devil Wears Prada, you kind of looked at us vaguely and said, what is this, a horror movie? I'm not sure. So you've never seen this film, so you don't have one film to look forward to. Hamish is sitting there very envious of you. You have this to sit down and watch for the first time. So listening to his enthusiasm for that film, hearing me saying, I quite like it. Then I also told you that Kenneth Branagh, Belfast's favourite son, is going to be in this sequel. Are we selling you on this film next year?
I think definitely the first one anyway. It's one of those ones when you're growing up, teenage boy, and you're sort of like, Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, no. But now that I'm older and much wiser, and I seen Emily Blunt play a similar role in the Muppets movie, I was like, yeah, I'm all for this. It's one of those ones where it's like, it's not on my radar, but between now and May, I might watch the first one, and then by the time the second one comes out, I'm like, actually, I do want to see that in the cinema. So I'm convinced.
Yeah, you've got a bit of time to sit down and watch it. And as you've mentioned there, we have a reference to Devil Wears Prada in The Muppets Most Wanted. So there you go. You've a reason to seek that film out. But that's not out now. I think we shall move on and talk about something that's in cinemas right now.
Ben Richards, 35. Married, one child, in medical crisis.
We need money for a doctor now.
Ben, watch us up.
Employment status, blacklisted. But there's still a way out for you. It's the biggest show in the country.
Bloodlust is our birthright! Set it free! Welcome to The Running Man.
So that's a look at the trailer for The Running Man, the latest adaptation. Edgar Wright is bringing it back to the big screen. There's no Arnie, but there is Arnie a little bit. Well, it's not too much of a spoiler. He does feature in some kind of monetary fashion, shall we say, in this. So I don't know, Adam, I'm going to come to you first. Were you a fan of the 80s original? Everyone's favourite Everyman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ben Richards. Here is something that's much closer to Stephen King's original idea, a very early novel from him. But were you looking forward to this new version? And I guess just are you a fan of the original? And what's your thoughts on this new version? 3 questions in one, Adam.
The original version is good if you're in a certain type of mood for a certain type of cheese.
Friday night, you want to have a few beers and some chicken wings. That's just the go-to.
But this version, I wasn't too excited for. Edgar Wright is one of my favourite directors when it comes to the Cornetto trilogy. I feel like after the Cornetto trilogy and sort of since him and Simon Pegg have stopped being a writing team, he's lost a lot of personality and heart in his movies. And I feel like the movies he's made since then have all sort of lacked a personal feeling. They all just feel like pastiches of movies Wright grew up with. So when it came to The Running Man, I wasn't very excited in the sense of I sort of knew what I was going to get. I was going to get that 80s Running Man type movie through the eyes of something like Baby Driver. Something that's technically impressive, but lacks a bit in the script department, and that's sort of exactly what I got here. Glenn Powell is very good. All the actors in it are all very good. Everybody's so well cast, but there's just something lacking and a bit of bite lacking as well from the original book and the original story. Towards the end, it's sort of just checking the watch to be like, this has had its fun, but I'm not really sticking with it the whole way, which is disappointing when it comes to, especially Wright is such a great director.
Yeah, I would disagree with you in the sense that I still am quite impressed with Baby Driver, and I'm still quite impressed with Last Night in Soho. I take the point, what you're saying on board about you can see the nods to the movies that he's been influenced by, and I genuinely don't have a problem with that because he tends to put his spin and his take on that. I would agree with you in that sense that here we have a technically competent, well executed, action movie of sorts that's much closer to the source material that King originally envisioned. I know he's much more enthusiastic about this version as opposed to the Arnie version. Ultimately, as well, the fact that it's nearly 40 minutes shorter than this. This is 2 hours 20. It is bloated. It does It does feel that length. By the time it reaches its finale, you're like, right, okay, I'm kind of ready to go. Hamish, what about you? Now, you were super enthusiastic about Devil Wears Prada 2. I don't know, have you seen the original Running Man before watching this version?
Yeah, no, I watched it specifically with the new release in mind.
So this is not something you grew up with, I guess? No.
No, not at all.
The look of disdain on your face says it all.
And I have to say, I wasn't particularly impressed with either version. I think with this new version, it doesn't necessarily do anything wrong, but it doesn't really do anything right, no pun intended. I think when you see the trailer, the poster, Edgar Wright, Glenn Powell, they're big names, it looks flashy, it looks exciting, but when you get in the midst of it, it's not really. It's very run-of-the-mill, by the numbers, and I don't know whether maybe I'm just sort of a bit bored with dystopian movies. There's been quite a lot over the last maybe decade, and whilst obviously the source material predates things like The Hunger Games and other things like that, there's just been so many of those, and this just feels like another one. It feels like it could have been dropped on Netflix on a random Thursday. It doesn't, you don't look at it and think, oh wow, this is the new Edgar Wright movie. It just is, it's unfortunately a bit disposable.
I don't want to say I didn't like it. I do. There's things but it's all technical things, and it's all things I was watching going, oh, I maybe would quite like to see Edgar Wright do a Mission Impossible entry, or I know he was talked as one of the candidates for Bond, and you're like, yeah, okay, I can see that, but I don't know, and maybe deep down, as I come back to the point, I just have too much of nostalgia. It's fine, it's perfectly serviceable. There going to be worse things out this year in the cinema. There's worse things that have been out this year. There has been better things out. Hey, we've got Wicked Part 2 round the corner. We can all be excited about that. So yeah, I think we will move on from The Running Man and go to something you can watch at home.
Are you the protectors of this world?
Yes, we are.
Your planet is now marked for death. Your world will be consumed by the Devourer. There is nothing you can do to stop him, for he is a universal force, as essential as the stars. Hold your loved ones close, and speak the words you've been afraid to speak. Use this time to rejoice and celebrate, for your time is short. I herald his beginning, I herald your end, I herald Galactus.
So that's a clip of the Fantastic Four, First Steps. It's available now on Disney+. Hamish, I'll come to you first. So it's available to stream now. Did you see this on the big screen earlier in the year, or are you now catching up with this now that it's available to watch from the luxury of your home? Because I'm sure you have an absolutely fantastic cinematic boudoir to watch all your movies. So did you see this at the cinema, or did you see this at home?
Yes, I saw this in the cinema. I actually saw it twice. I saw it back to back, 2 days in a row, because I enjoyed it so much. I know it hasn't gone down the best. It's not been, everyone hasn't loved it, but I think I just enjoyed how fresh it felt, especially for Marvel. I think it's the most exciting thing they've done in a very long time. And I think what I enjoyed so much about it was I felt comfortable with the characters in a way that it's felt like for the last sort of maybe 10 films they've been trying to set up characters, piece characters from this team and that team, and it just hasn't felt cohesive. And what I liked about this was it just starts, it's just a cold opening, and you've just got the characters there. There's the four of them, and I think they're all very well cast. Before, when it was announced, I wasn't sure about the casting, but very quickly as the film got underway, I felt like they were all very well matched to their characters. And I feel like it's something that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's a group of characters they can move forward with really strongly in a way that for the last number of years I haven't felt enthused by this franchise. So I think it has done a really good job of, one, being its own film, not connected to anything else. You can watch it without having seen a single other Marvel film and enjoy it. But it also has set good first steps in place for the next phase of Marvel movies, which I had sort of given up with before this entry. So it has got me more enthused again.
See what you did there, though, with a reference into the steps as well. You've referenced the movie title, Hamish. That's why you're paid the big bucks. I would love to be as enthusiastic about this as you. We reviewed this earlier in the year, and I know Aaron Flanagan from the Comic Book Guys, who is usually Mr. MCU, usually ultra enthusiastic about all these films, was not a fan of it. And I thought it was fine, and I still think that it's fine. But all the things you've mentioned as positives, I can't disagree with. I'm just at a sense of like, maybe I am now at peak comic book movie fatigue, that even the thought of this being something new and it offers an alternative without being too geeky. We're in an alternative universe that's been different to what we've seen before. I love the world of the Fantastic Four. Its visual look is fab, it's stylized, you know, it has that kind of classic kind of, you know, 60s, that kind of 60s sci-fi look and feel to it. The casting is great. I mean, I do love Vanessa Kirby. Joseph Quinn is in there. Everyone's favourite internet daddy, Pedro Pascal, is there as well. We were talking about Glenn Powell. Let's throw a bit of love to Pedro Pascal as well. I just came out of it ultimately going, it's fine, but maybe kind of what you alluded to, Hamish, that sense is like, okay, we've got our Fantastic Four in place. They are a big part of Marvel, and they are Marvel's first family. You know, that's their term. But let's see what they do. But it's ultimately the fact that their next outing is going to be in the Avengers, which I'm becoming less and less enthused about, because it's just going to be every single character from the MCU just being smooshed together. And we've even got the classic X-Men coming back, and we know that that's going to be retooled after the Avengers movies with what, Secret Wars, I think is not the next one, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm just maybe comicked out. Adam, you reviewed this on the podcast many moons ago, and you were kind of a bit like him. You were lukewarm, if I remember, about the film, but you were more positive about it than I am.
Yeah, it's like the Fantastic Four are like some of my favorite characters in Marvel, and even looking back at like the old Jessica Alba movies, like I rewatched those recently, and they still sort of do hold up compared to some of the muck that's came out. Looking at you, Venom 3. But this movie, sort of going back and watching it, it feels like a movie that was made during COVID. Like a lot of the scenes are so like wide and empty, and just like two characters talking, and you can sort of feel like a negative space, no pun intended for Fantastic Four fans, but where there's something missing. And some of the casting, like Pedro Pascal, doesn't really achieve what Reed Richards is to me. Joseph Quinn is the Human Torch, doesn't give enough sort of charm that like a Johnny Storm should. But I will say, going back and watching it now the second time, loved it. That was great.
So what was it about second viewing? What do you think changed for you? Was it expectations first time round, and kind of having that kind of, you clearly have a love for the Fantastic Four. You went in with expectations, because it can change a film. I mean, I've mentioned earlier on with The Running Man, I maybe went in with too high expectations. I don't know about The Running Man, it's too soon, only saw it a couple of days ago. Maybe on my second or third viewing, it's like, yeah, this is a perfectly fine, well done, well executed action movie. I like this. Mm-hmm. But at the minute right now, I'm a bit disappointed. Mm-hmm. But you're saying when you first talked about it, you were not enthusiastic about it. And now you've rewatched it for the show and you like it, you love it. So yeah. What's changed? Have you changed, Adam, since then?
I don't know. I think it is mainly expectations, sort of going in the hope that this would be the sort of, as much as I loved Thunderbolts, and it's one of my favorite superhero films of the year, going into this was sort of like, how can this sort of fix Marvel in a way with a team that I really love? And it's sort of the journey go on through the film and the sort of relationship they have by the end of the movie, you feel it more a second time. You feel the connection between everybody. And even I wanted to see more of the Thing, Ben Grimm's story. And I think the first time I was more disappointed that clearly a lot of his story had been cut back. So going in a second time watching it, knowing that he was more of a supporting character than he would be a bigger character throughout the whole film, I sort of just enjoyed it more. And seeing Galactus, seeing the Silver Surfer and stuff, the Interstellar sequence still takes the breath away. It's such a fantastic sequence. Seeing it in IMAX originally, and it's just so cool. But it makes me sort of sad that we might not get a second Fantastic Four standalone. These characters might just be used as Avengers plot points. So, Spider-Man's going to see Mr. Fantastic, or Spider-Man's going to see. That makes me sad, because I would sort of want just a small family-based film again.
Hopefully the film will find its audience, and who knows, we will maybe get more outings, solo outings at least, for the Fantastic Four. But for now, let's move on, wrap up this week's show as we continue, as always, to champion physical media.
One, I would rather live with her than a wolf.
Did you say wolf?
Yeah.
Wow. One, he has arms. Well, I saw a documentary once about a man without arms, and it looked like a difficult life, particularly for the partner, so I like that he has arms.
Yeah, it's fair.
Arms.
Two, the shape of her head is somewhat pleasing at a distance. Three, I have memories of her being witty. Four, she smells pleasant on occasion. Actually struggle to write anymore.
So that's a look at the trailer for The Rose. It's going to be out in DVD later this month. Remake of the 80s original directed by Danny DeVito. We had in that version, we had Kathleen Turner, and we of course had Michael Douglas, Danny DeVito in front of the camera as well. Now we have Benedict Cumberbatch, we have the lovely Olivia Colman, impressive ensemble cast in there this time round. We've got the likes of Andy Samberg in there as well. I missed this when it was out on the big screen. Got the chance to catch up on it. I'm going to hold off my feelings for just a minute. Adam, I'll come to you. Did you see this when it was out on the big screen, or did you catch up specifically for the show?
I did catch up, but it was one of those films that I went and seen something and seen the poster and thought the poster was atrocious. Because I do like War of the Roses, the Danny DeVito version, and was actually... When I seen the poster and it just said The Roses, I was like, is that a remake? And I was sort of hoping it would be a remake, because I was like, interesting cast, because it's just them two on the poster. And it's nice to see Benedict Cumberbatch doing more comedy, and Olivia Colman doing more comedy ever since she's sort of become the Oscar lady. But she got her start in the comedy, in British comedy. But this movie to me sort of lacks the British dryness that I was hoping it would have. A bit more black humour would have been nice. And I had this problem with the original movie as well. It's sort of a movie that I wish was a bit darker. Because I do enjoy a black comedy, but...
And that comes from a film where there's a possibility that one of our characters is eating their dog.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I just sort of... The cast here are all sort of playing it safe in a way around Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch, because they all are mostly Americans, even British actors who play Americans. And it's like, well, can you not just be British? That would be funnier. I think that is part with the director being Jay Roach, sort of having a more broad comedic sense of humour than just a dry British wit. So I was sort of hoping for more for it, but it's not a bad movie. It is perfectly serviceable. It's one of those, the wicked little letters that came out last year with Olivia Colman. It's one of those ones you could watch with your mum and dad, and they would be like, oh, she's swearing, isn't that funny? It's one of those, but it is, like I say, it's a movie I was hoping more from, in the sense of, because I liked the original, and with this sort of cast, and, back in the 90s, you couldn't really do a lot of deep black humor, especially with DeVito directing and what he goes on to direct further down the line, like The Death of Smoochie. It's clearly he wanted to go darker, and I was hoping that this would do that, but didn't for me.
Yeah, I think that was his second time behind the big screen, and I think shortly after that, I know he went off to do Matilda as well, and that's what you mentioned, Death to Smoochy. But I thought this was coming back again. I feel like I'm repeating myself with The Running Man. You know, what is it with remaking in the 80s? We've had 2 this week. I thought this was fine, and I was actually genuinely disappointed with this because I like War of the Roses, and I will admit I went back after watching this and rewatched the original, and it was a film I remember watching because you kind of alluded to that, Adam. My dad was like, "Oh, we're going to watch this. It's got Michael Douglas, it's got Kathleen Turner. You're going to love this." And yeah, it was funny. But you go back and rewatch it again, it's fine. It's not Shakespeare. But I did think when you have that level of cast, and we've got even the likes of Ncuti Gatwa in there as well, Doctor Who, R.I.P. But it never landed for me. It never landed in the sense that we have this cold open, and I think that might have been the clip that we used where they're in therapy and they're kind of discussing each other, what they like about each other, and you go, okay, this could be funny. And it just never really gets going. It's just middle of the road. Let's not really offend anyone too much. You know, we've got a joke about a restaurant called We've Got Crabs. It's like, if that's your high bar, as you say, it's a film I could sit down over. I started the show talking about Christmas over the festive period. If you don't want to watch, Home Alone 2 for the umpteenth, time with your family, sit and watching it. I could easily watch this with my mum, and I'm sure she would find it completely hilarious because someone shouted a bad word at loud volume. But yeah, I can think of other funnier things. Bit like you, Adam. I think it's a waste of talent in certain sense, not in the sense of like they're not good, but in the sense that you could have done a lot more with this. Hamish, where are you when? And Adam and I have been pretty, lukewarm. I wouldn't say down about this. The look on your face says it all.
Well, I can smell something, and it's not roses. Yeah, this was not the one.
And it's
for
not
me.
Adam. I just want to clarify as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with it is, like you say, it just doesn't get going. I think it's billed as this like divorce breakup movie where there's all these over the top antics, but for the first about hour, it's a really dull relationship drama that isn't one thing or the other. So I think they've mismarketed it, and you just sort of you're willing it to do something and to pick a lane and stick to it. As you say, it tries to appease everyone, and by doing that, it doesn't appeal to anyone. I think the only time it really clicked for me was Alison Janney's very short cameo. I was like, this is what the entire film needs to be like. There are the odd funny line that you'll get a sort of a grin or a wee chuckle at, but it's far too long and it's not focused enough to become worthwhile, unfortunately.
Okay, well, I think that's a bit of a downer to finish in this week's show, and it's had it this week. We've had The Running Man, we've had The Roses, we've been a bit meh about it. It's the film we're most enthusiastic about is The Fantastic Four: First Steps. Says a lot about my choices for this week. Hopefully next week will be better. As I said, we have Wicked Part 2 to look forward to, but that's pretty much us for this week. So all that's left for me to do now this evening here in Belfast is thank my 2 guests. So thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much, Hamish.
Cheers, Jim.
Thanks very much for watching at home. We'll be back next week, as I say, with another episode. But for now, until then, goodbye.